like yourself, I'm very passionate about what I do. And I think for anyone, if you pick your lane early enough in your career, if you find out what your real purpose is, not only will you be good at it, you'll want to do it a very long time. And you and I are both, testaments to that platform, that we're still loving what we do and still making a difference. And that's what fuels me, is being able to, to help a company and people in the company take their game to another level.
Welcome to Your Next Big Project is You, a podcast based around the theme of time. Time to be able to press pause on life. Time to reevaluate what's important. Time to reminisce about where you've come from, what you've learned, and what you've accomplished. Time to revisit your goals, dreams, and vision. And time to remember the people in your life. That's it, my friends. If you've got time, fasten your seatbelt and listen in as we discuss opportunities for the next 5 to 25 years of your life. And remember, your next big project is you. Welcome to our podcast. Your next big project is you. I've got a very special guest today. His name is Selbie, a great Canadian from the province of British Columbia. Is that correct, Ian?
That's right, Leo, out in Vancouver. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got so much in common. My gosh, I'm so looking forward to talking to you. Speaker, trainer, author, coach, mentor, the things that you've done in your career. I love talking to people who are as passionate as I am around world-class behaviors of the best in this profession of sales that we both love. So welcome. I'm really looking forward to picking your brain and bantering here with you for a few minutes. Thank you so much, Ian.
Thank you, Leo. Pleasure being on your show, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity, and great to talk to you again, as always.
What an interesting journey for you, my friend. And I know it's been highlighted by a number of achievements. The one that stood out to me is that when you're number one in the world with Apple, and seeing your picture with Steve Jobs many years ago, and being recognized for the great work that you were doing, not only in Western Canada, but how those numbers reflected even global metrics in the work that you did, that recognition, that's pretty big. So congratulations for having that as a little clip on your belt there. That's pretty big by my standards in terms of that type of global notoriety. So much congrats being sent your way.
Thank you, Leo. It's certainly any award like that, it's a team effort. There's no one person that gets the job done. As you know, selling is a team sport. It's not really golf. It's more like football.
Yeah.
And so I had some great running backs and wide receivers and a great coach who would call timeout from time to time and say, Ian, you thought about calling higher on that account. Okay, thanks, coach. There you go.
There you go.
It was an honor. It was
a big part of strategic thinking that comes into really elevating your game. And I know you're all over that. Tell us a little bit more about that journey. What led into the work there, and now that you've formed your coaching capabilities into SalesMentorU. Tell us about that journey, please.
Surely I'll be happy to. Again, it started for me with Apple. I had a few different roles. I was looking after the channel for the first 4 years. Then I got into corporate sales for the next 4 years. And that's when I was blessed and fortunate enough to win that honors award that put me on stage. My only hardship on that was by then Steve Jobs had left. I'd met him before. So it was John Scully's hand I had to shake and not Steve. And anyway, I'll take it. It's still a great award. Then I got promoted to branch manager. And by then, Microsoft and Apple were in court over look and feel, Windows and the Mac OS. And I'll say we, still when I refer to Apple, we lost the court case, had to drop our prices. And when you drop your prices on a global scale, it means probably getting rid of some people. So I had the terrible honor of having to help Apple downsize in Western Canada. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. So it was funny. I got inspired. I went to a seminar called Success 95, how to get ready for your next year and take it to another level. Lots of keynote speakers, 8 of them. And the guy that really did it for me was a a preacher called, not Zeke Ziegler, Zeke was there, but Dr. Schuler, who had a TV show, and
Sure.
he said four things, and they were game changers for me. It was like start to play, stop and pray, prepare to pay, and plan to stay. And I was like, wow. He dared me to be in my own business. That's how I internalized it. So I resigned the next day and started a business. Instead of renting my resume to the highest bidder, I wanted to get out there and make a difference with what I'd learned in my journey so far. I wanted to give it back. And so I wrote a training program. Then I followed up with a coaching program. And then, wrote a few books, and then I got into speaking. And so the journey took off from there. And, I like yourself, I'm very passionate about what I do. And I think for anyone, if you pick your lane early enough in your career, if you find out what your real purpose is, not only will you be good at it, you'll want to do it a very long time. And you and I are both, testaments to that platform, that we're still loving what we do and still making a difference. And that's what fuels me, is being able to, to help a company and people in the company take their game to another level. Right. So that's kind of a little bit on my background.
I can appreciate the journey so much. It mirrors much of my own similar path that's happened to me in the last 3 decades plus. Being inspired, listening, something just sort of clicks and said, there's a tipping point. I got to do something. I love what you said there about picking your lane. That's really, really important, because I believe the more you pick that lane, if it defines your core competencies, and when you excel in a lane in terms of your capabilities, correct me if I'm wrong. Here's the way I look at it. So I believe your value proposition, you compete knowing that you're a tough out. Once you're in the lane you're supposed to be in, and if you're delivering the skills that you're capable of delivering to the audience that you can serve well, you're formidable. And it becomes really a challenge for someone to compete against you or displace you if you're in the right lane.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond money. It's like the question, one of the questions that Schuler asked the audience in that seminar many, many years ago. I actually got to meet him much later and thank him, which was, 360. I got back to why I started my business was his inspiration. But it's the kind of thing where if you're doing your passion, if it's something, getting paid is a bonus. Like I will say, if life already paid for, all the degrees and the marriages and the grandchildren, if everything was already paid for, what would you just love to do? Because you love doing it. And that's my lane still. I'm still loving what I don't kill myself like I used to, like road trips around the world and training and all that stuff. I'm a little more selective who I work with. And so I'm keeping it in balance. I like to spend time with my grandchildren and my kids and so on. But certainly I still love with a passion what I get to do. It's an honor.
I believe, Ian, one of the operative questions for all of us, and anybody listening in, if somehow under your pillow tonight, and you woke up tomorrow morning and there was $1 million or 10 million or 20 million or 100, whatever the number is, and hypothetically, you didn't need to work anymore. You could be a philanthropist. You can give your time, talent, treasure to others. What would you do? And in your case, I believe in my case, I'm going to do the same thing I'm doing right now. I don't need the money. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It's not going to say, oh, now I can do what I really want to do. Yeah. I believe when you're doing what you really want to do, you do it even when money's not an issue.
That's exactly it. That is the point, Leo. Fabulous analogy. The under the pillow check. What was waiting for you? It wouldn't change what I do. It wouldn't change what I do professionally at all.
My wife would say, hey, so you don't need to work anymore. I said, well, this doesn't work. I get to help people to really think of it, take their business or themselves to the next level. How blessed am I to be in this position to do this? What else would I rather do? Our old football coach, Marv Levy, for my beloved masochistic following of the Buffalo Bills, would say, where else would you rather be? Right here, right now. And I said, well, I'd rather be doing what I'm doing right here, right now. I believe you do as well.
Exactly.
So amongst many of the things that you've authored, and you've provided, audio versions of some of your intellectual property as well. One of the things that caught my attention was the title of, it's part of your tagline or part of your website. We'll get into one of your books, but Confessions of a Sales Professional, Less Sins, More Wins. Tell us more how that title came about and what you're trying to get across there.
Well, that was the podcast. That's what the name of the podcast is.
Oh, the podcast. Okay, great.
Road. And so, like many of people like you and I, Leo, around the world, when COVID hit a couple of years ago, our pipelines evaporated. Like no one was traveling, no one was sitting in a conference room for a couple of days or even have conferences. Like it was just gone. So I needed a hobby. So I thought, why don't I do this podcasting thing? And so I came up with one of the white papers I've authored many, many years ago is the 7 deadly sins in selling. So 7 things to stop doing and you'll already be better. So I thought, I've already got that sort of semi-branded to me. Why don't I play with that with the podcast? So the first dozen episodes were just me talking about various components or topics within my books. And then I thought, poor listeners must be getting very bored of my voice. Why don't I start having some guests on? And like yourself, Leo, you've been on mine before and would love to have you back as well. And it became so much fun. It was downtown Passionville again. It was like talking to other like-minded people around the world. And it started off just sales and sales leadership, but the diversity of the guests started to draw the circle wider and wider. So, counselors on mindset, people, mental toughness coaches, marketing, branding. So it's become really interesting. And I guess this morning I launched episode 114. So I'm over 2 years into it and I'm still having fun doing it. I haven't monetized it. I don't make a bean. It just takes up a bit of time, but it's still in my lane. And I really love what I'm doing with it for sure.
Yeah. Ditto here. Same thing. I just love meeting interesting people. I love listening and learning from other people's journeys, their perceptions on life and success, and how they relates to some of the work behaviors I'm doing my best to try to change and have others live a life of significance going forward, or things like that. So it's interesting. Getting back to the one book, if you were arrested for selling, would there be enough evidence to convict you? A catchy title. Tell us more about that one, Ian.
Sure. Again, earlier in the business, like back in 95 is when I got started. So I wrote, anything I'd learned in my head about selling. I built a 2-day training program, and it's been like software. It goes through iterations and upgrades and add this, change this. So it's still up and running, and added coaching. And then I thought, you know what? I should have a book. I should take everything that's in my head and squeeze it onto paper so people can read it as a backup tool and a marketing tool. And it was a bestseller in Canada because I sold 7,000 copies. Wow. But it's not Stephen King. I'm not in that league at all, by no means. So I did that, and I thought some of the things I teach is something called killer questions. Questions to ask someone to make them feel the pain that they're in and how your solution could lead them out of it. And we tailor it for every client differently. But one of my killer questions is kind of a play on the book. So when I come into a CEO or an owner of a business and I say, if your sales team were arrested for selling, would there be evidence to convict them? And then I'd be quiet. And the answer I typically always get, Leo, they typically say a couple of them would be doing life for sales because they're rock stars. I wish I could clone them. The rest, I like to fire them and start over. And then I put my hand up. Would you like some help with that? Right. So that it leads me right to their pain. And then, that's how we get started typically. So that's why I named the book that. It is very cheeky. And it gets, it creates a bit of conversation every time.
Well, you'll never be Stephen King, and you'll never sell as many books as him, and he'll never be Ian Selbie. You know that, don't you?
No.
He'll never have your passion for sales excellence to do that. Let's talk about some of the behaviors that we've seen. How many years have you got under your belt again, Ian, in the sales profession?
Well, as a salesperson, I guess I started when I was like 20. I'm 64 now. So many years selling. And when you start your own business, you got to add a zero to how much you're selling, right? So, I've been a salesperson, entrepreneur my whole adult life, and I still love it. And has the rules of the game changed? To some degree. but the game is still the game.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
a first down might be 15 yards now, not 10 anymore. The end zone might be, 20 yards deep instead of 10. There's still such a thing as out of bounds. There's still goalposts to get the extra point. I mean, the game is still the game, and it's all about people. It's about relationships. It's about value. I've got a model called the model of sales effectiveness, and it starts with the customer. At the heart of the customer is their business pain, not what they buy, why they buy it.
Yeah.
What are their real needs, and why are those needs there? What makes that so important to them? So, call high, find the pain, bring the gain. And sometimes the gain is the value that you sell or offer. Other times the gain is introduction or referral to someone else that could help them with the pain. So it doesn't always mean scoring a goal, to use a hockey analogy. Sometimes you get an assist, and the customer definitely gives you a loyalty point for playing that role and putting their interests ahead of your own. So
Yeah.
it's still, I mean, four things: call high, find the pain, bring the gain, do it again and again, be disciplined. That's the four things. That's the what. I need 2 days to explain to people how you do those things.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. There's so much meat in that. There's so much just good content. I grew up in the sales productivity business a number of years ago. And one of the programs that we represented back then was built around an adage that the best way to learn how to sell was to first understand what it's like to buy. Right. And that's exactly what you're talking about. It's looking at the mindset of a customer and putting yourself in a customer's shoes to try to feel their pain, try to get a handle, open up I always use this, open up the zipper on their chest, to reach into their heart and soul to what's truly bothering them in achieving the important metrics for their respective businesses. And you're just nailing that one, big guy.
Instead of pushing a product, then you're
Yeah.
pulling the solution home, and part of
Totally.
the solution might be well beyond what you sell. So that gets you on the customer side of the desk, and now that's a shortcut. If you want to be a trusted advisor, do just that one thing, and watch your game change.
Isn't it funny, Ian, how so many people are looking for that magical pill? So, just tell me this. And I say, if you do what Ian's talking, if you really listen to your clients, customers, prospects, whatever they might be, and if you just trust this process, and if you do it correctly, as I always say, clients will close you.
That's it. And
It's
you
'cause
won't.
people
You
say,
can't
"Hey, Leo."
learn something that's good. Once
Yeah,
you know it, you'll always do it, and that becomes your new norm. And watch your sales go up. The referrals are now executives calling other executives, getting you new appointments. Wow! Instead of cold calling forever, the life changes completely in the world of selling.
Drives me crazy, Ian, when people say, our organization needs a closing skills course. We used to teach elements. I say, you tell me more, I dig it in. Why do you feel like that? All the questions you and I would ask. Hey, you don't need a closing skills course.
No.
You need a selling skills course. Because
Absolutely.
you're not asking the right questions. You're not going through the process correctly.
Right.
You're not building trust, respect, rapport, putting your hands around someone's heart with their issues. People don't get it. No. What should I say to ask for the order? Hell, they'll ask you. They'll ask you when you're available.
When can
or
I
how
get it? I need
deliver.
it now. When can I have it?
Yeah, exactly.
It reminds me of the movie Glengarry Glen Ross. And many of our listeners must remember that show. Sales show with these real estate sales guys. And Alec Baldwin plays the sales trainer. He comes in with a New York accent and says, ABC, always be closing. And it's like, no, don't always be ABQ, always be qualifying. Yes, but that's not closing. The smartest salespeople on the planet figure out if they can help that customer or not. They qualify so efficiently in just a dialogue. It's not like, I've got 9 questions. The first question, it's not like that at all. It's in their mindware. That's how they ebb and flow in a discussion. And they decide very quickly, yes or no. And let's go to the next one. It's about qualifying. It's not about closing.
No, I'm with you totally. As entertaining as that movie is, with the star-studded cast with Pacino and Baldwin, and we go on with the rest of the folks who are in that, the cast there. it really gave the bad side of what
Exactly.
hardcore selling is.
What
That's
not
not
to
what
do.
you're all about. It's not what
Yeah.
I'm all about. But
Yeah.
when the profession gets there's a connotation around pushiness and just being overbearing. Some of the references that people make, it's not professional. I don't feel like this. Where guys like you and I are just unbelievably proud of what
Yeah.
we do and help people to be the consummate professionals as they should be. That
Yeah.
movie didn't do us justice. You need to go
No.
to your course. You need to go to
No.
your course and
Yeah.
listen to some of our podcasts.
Absolutely. That movie is what not to do, clearly.
Exactly. You want to be
What not to
entertained?
do as well. That there's lessons on both sides. The things you should stop doing and the things you should start doing. And that's an ongoing learning mindset. And you and I have that in common as well, Leo. We're never done learning. Thirsty, always thirsty for something new.
Never done learning, but the game is still the game.
It is. It is.
I love that, buddy. Said it perfect. Has it really changed in your 40 plus years or mine? I mean, there's like almost 90 years of collective
Combined.
sales
Holy
wisdom.
cow.
If anybody wants to, to look at it from the core, we are speaking from our heart. There's about, as I said, collectively, about 90 years of two guys who are passionate about the business of professional selling, consulting, call it what you want these days, depending on what path or lane you are in, right, Ian?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can be very proud, be very, very proud of who you are and what you represent if you're doing it with the level of professionalism that you and I are espousing here.
Absolutely. And what hasn't changed? Let's look at that. And it's really basic. There is a customer that has needs. Okay. And there's a bunch of them, right? So aiming at your right on target. Those are important things to do as well. But there's a customer with needs. There's competitors with solutions that could solve some of those needs. And then there's us, our company. We've got some solutions that could also solve the needs. So our job is to win the customer's trust, solve their business pain, sell them something that will help them in a measurable way have an impact, called the value proposition, better than our competitors are able to. So that game is still the game. That game has always been the game and still is the game. Is there social media? Is there podcasting now? Is there all kinds of other things? Yeah, there are. And we have to equip ourselves with those and adapt to some of these new platforms, but it still forms a communication. It's still branding. It's still all the things that always went on. So the game hasn't really at its core changed. Maybe the uniforms and the spray paint have, but the game is the game. Absolutely.
Yeah, no question. Hey, a couple quick questions just to finish up here. I could talk to you all day here. Would people pin you up against the wall in a nice way? It might be over a meal, might be on a Zoom call these days, or when you have the opportunity to meet somebody in person. Would they say, Ian, you've got so much in your filing drawer cabinet from all the things that you've learned from your own skill sets over the years that rose you to the ranks to the highest level in the sales profession to helping people to achieve similar standards. What are the best behaviors, characteristics of the elite, world-class Olympians in this profession of selling? What are a handful of things that you've seen and observed when people pick your brain around this?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I think it always comes down to the relationship. We could have the same product, similar pricing. It's hard to differentiate with products, even with service, because you could hire and train the same people. And what is hard to commoditize is the relationship. So the relationship is paramount, and building manufacturing trust is what connects you to that customer. And if you do it well and you never take your hands off the wheel and you continue to nurture those trusted relationships, you could create customers for life. And what salesperson gets up in the morning and can't wait to make 100 cold calls? No hands ever go up on that question, Leo. What salesperson wouldn't mind going out for lunch with a dozen of their trusted clients that see them in high regard? That's the easiest sales call of your life. And they say yes like that. Half the time, you're not even doing proposals for those guys. They're saying, when can you start? Great. Thursday works for me, right? So it's that kind of thing. So the trusted relationship piece is paramount. Instead of thinking you're trying to sell a product, and that's how we're all trained. I mean, that's how our compensation plans are put together. Empty the warehouse. You got that territory, go spill it over there. Whatever it is, the bench of people, services, we're paid to sell something. But it's funny, it's almost like the game of golf. The harder you swing, you don't necessarily go further straight. I know the way I play golf, I'm on the wrong fairway when I do that. So the best way to do this is to not think about selling. Think about being a salesperson as a business doctor. Diagnose the needs of the customer. What do you have that would help some of the issues? And don't stop there. Keep looking for other things that might add to the overall solution for the pain of the customer. So those, the relationship, thinking about business pain through the lens of the customer, those are two fabulous behaviors. And then another one, I mean, yes, persistence. Like we could lose a game, win the series. We could lose a series and win the series next year. So having that tenacity, that just raw, passionate persistence that each day is a new game. And that's the beauty of sales. We've got 365 games to play in a year, and we can keep doing it. So if you bring persistence, passion, some confidence, keep yourself organized, have trusted relationships, you do those 5 or so things, you'll be on the sales Olympic team for the United States of America. Absolutely.
Well said, my friend. I can go on and on. There's so much. I love what you said there. And relationships. I always say people do business, people they like, people that they trust, people that they value. You mentioned trust. Trust to me is all around. When someone says, I trust Ian Selbie, when I would say that to somebody, I'd say that means it's your integrity. That means they're speaking to your character and to your abilities. I mean, that's pretty big.
That's
for somebody. Take that at a different level of value. Don't just take those words for granted. I love what you're talking about, that business doctoring scenario about prescription. I had a prospect, after drilling me with questions for 45 minutes to an hour, looks at me and says, well, I'd love to have you get us a proposal. Why can't you give a proposal? I said, we're nowhere near ready for a proposal. I said, you've been doing all the questioning of me. I haven't had a chance to ask you a single question. I said, so if you want me to product dump you, if you want me to just throw something up against the wall, keep a 6, guess what? I don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't do that. And somebody keeps saying, no, he asked for the proposal. I got to deliver the proposal. You're not ready for the proposal. You haven't even asked any questions that you said, always be qualified. Heck, I didn't even get a chance to ask a question. I just been answering your questions. How do you expect me to give you a proposal? What the hell good is that?
In the 7 deadly sins, Leo, sin number 4 is the premature proposal trap.
Totally.
And good for you for not stepping in that puddle. You drove right up and said, I got to qualify you before I'm going to spend any time proposing to you. I got to find out what your pain is, what you need, how many people, when you need it. Why are you doing this? There's a whole lot that have to happen first. Yeah?
Totally. Hey, let's finish on some fun. You see behind me here, I launched capstone work in my career. It really is oriented towards the business of selling or leaders, people. It doesn't matter walk of life. When I think about some of the people that I've worked with, even from the sales profession, that chose that pathway, that chose that lane for themselves. I don't care what you're representing. It doesn't matter. But there's a certain point. You remember when you rewind your 40 years, when you started the first few years survival, and then a little security, you got a little bit good, started making a few bucks, then success. You became, hey, number 1 in Apple in the world. Congratulations. And all of a sudden where you're at today is committed to making a difference and helping people to do this profession properly, to do it correctly. So a lot of my principles, when I talk about living life with significance now, make sure, I don't care what you're selling, that maybe there's a way for you to make a difference in someone's life or their business, whatever. Have a feeling of not having any regrets. So that I could put my head on my pillow at night. I gave it my best shot. That there's a feeling up there in terms of having authentic appreciation and gratitude for what gifts we have been given that have been earned, having perspective, right? Having stewardship? How can we give back more based on our success around issues of abundance? And then how do we become the best version of ourselves in this lane that we've chosen, right? Because the game is not changed. The game is the
Right.
game to
Yes.
do this. And how can we, in essence, live our legacy to be the utmost in our profession? So I'm having some fun with this. Here's the question for you. I want to pick a question that has some plug. It says, well, it's out of the living your legacy. So let's say you're talking to some sales professional, you're coaching, you're mentoring them. Is there anything that they could do to be truly transformative? How would that apply, do you think, to a sales profession? That question.
Transformative. So the notion of transform is going from some platform, something to something else,
Correct.
right?
Right.
So to be transformed means you've got to be willing to learn and change. So some people give that lip service. We probably both had some people in, the 17,000 I've trained in all these years, Leo, there's always someone at the beginning of day one of the training program. He's got like the Wall Street Journal on one side and my training book on the other. And within 5 minutes, it's going to determine which one of those he's going to read today.
Yeah.
There's some people that don't like change because there's some risk involved. You may not be, you think you're good at what you already do by doing it a certain way, granted, but are we all saying there's no room for improvement? Of course, there's always room for improvement with what I do every day, with what you do every day. So no one should stop learning. So to be transformed, you've got to be transformable. I would put that back on the person. And there's lots of places to drink Kool-Aid. I'm not suggesting whose Kool-Aid better than someone else's. There's lots of sources for that. But if you don't come to the table thirsty, no Kool-Aid will help you.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. Hey, Ian, you are an absolute gift to the profession. You are one of those folks I would put on really high bar. People want to learn from someone who truly lives their values, has such a high standard, and is committed to absolute excellence in helping people to be the best version of themselves. That, my friend, is you, Ian Selbie. I thank you so much for your time. I'm so looking forward when our paths will cross in the same lane somewhere in British Columbia or in the United States or other parts of Canada. I wish you the best, and I just can't thank you enough for your friendship, your support, and all the great work you're doing to help other people to take their game to another level. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leo. Been my absolute pleasure. I value our friendship, and you're making a huge dent in the sales universe. I know that, and I hope you do too.
Thanks, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.